I am so happy I don't know what to do with myself because the majority still rules. The majority still rules. The Ohioans said that every person in this state is special, and we are going to continue to have the right to determine what we want to have happen here. Because why? The majority still rules. I kept saying to my friends that we were going to beat the brakes off of them. And that's what we did, y'all. We beat the brakes off of them. Yes!
That was Deidre Reese of the Ohio Unity Coalition, fired up after supporters of democracy and abortion rights won big in the state of Ohio just last night. Well, the election has yet to be finalized. The constitutional amendment to raise the threshold for ballot initiatives to pass from a simple majority to 60% was defeated by 57% to 43%. And the turnout, especially for an off election in the middle of summer, well, it was huge. Almost twice as many people voted on then cast ballots in the statewide primaries last year. Joining our conversation, Democratic Congresswoman Shontel Brown of Ohio. Congresswoman, how are you feeling about last night's victory?
I am feeling just like she was. I am super excited. But I do want to start off by thanking you for having me and thanking the voters and the volunteers of Ohio for showing up. Clearly, they were fed up and fired up. And as a result, they showed up and showed out. This issue 1 referendum was a message to the rest of the country. As I've said before, Ohio has been a barometer, a litmus test, if you will, for the rest of the country, especially when it comes to politics. We've heard the expression, so goes Ohio, so goes the nation.
To that point, I want to get your take on some of the numbers from last night. This is the New York Times reporting this, quote, "The Ohio defeat was powered by a strong showing from Democratic and swing voters. Opponents overperformed in some critical suburban battleground counties. In Athens, for example, a Democratic bastion and the home of Ohio University, voters opposed the measure by 71%. Last fall, former Representative Tim Ryan, the Democratic candidate who lost a Senate race to J.D. Vance, a Republican, won the county by 61%. Katie Paris, the founder of a group that organizes suburban women voters for Ohio Democrats, said she saw voters who wouldn't normally have turned into an election in the summer on an obscure political process get engaged. Abortion, she said, snaps them to attention. There is constant evidence of how personal this is, she said. It's the perfect case study. I wonder for you, as someone who is familiar with watching those numbers roll in on an election night, how does it feel to see voters show up like this in the middle of summer on an off election year for, as they said, something that could seem like a process question?
Well, in Ohio, there's no such thing as an off-year elections. We have elections every year, but the sad part is the Secretary of State said the quiet part out loud, and that he made this issue 1 about abortion. And what we've learned and what we've witnessed from the victory of this very critical election, which the state legislature deemed they would no longer have these special elections in August because people are not conditioned to vote. They're getting ready for back to school. They're vacationing. They're focused on their kids' little leagues. But people were paying attention. When you talk about issues around abortion, that translates to health care. And health care does not only impact women, but it also impacts men. It doesn't strictly impact Democrats. It impacts Democrats and Republicans and independents alike. So this was never, and it should have never been, a partisan issue, right? This is a bipartisan result, and Democrats and Republicans and independents came together. It was a broad constituency of folks that wanted to make sure that we enshrine the right to protect people's decisions, people's ability to make their own healthcare decisions.
So when you talk about that broad coalition that came together, I'm struck by you have Secretary of State Frank LaRose running for Senate against Sherrod Brown. He had what I would call an interesting reaction to defeat. The New Republic writing, quote, "Now that his central issue has lost badly, LaRose, who will likely be the Republican candidate challenging Democrat Sherrod Brown for Senate, is blaming all the people he claims to want to represent. I'm grateful that nearly 1.3 million Ohioans stood with us in this fight, but this is only one battle in a long war." I mean, I wonder, are you surprised to see him continue to tie himself to an issue that voters in your state have overwhelmingly opposed?
Sadly, I am not surprised. This is straight out of the, again, if you can't beat them, cheat them Republican playbook. The extreme decisions of these MAGA extremist right-wing Republicans has no boundaries. It doesn't seem to be any limit to where they will go. And so just like in Kansas, just like in Wisconsin, just like in Michigan, Ohio is proving that they are wrong on this issue. And sadly, they continue to dig their heels in further, but that's good news for Democrats. So for us, we know that 58% of Ohioans support people's ability to make their own healthcare decisions. And again, that's a broad constituency, not just women, not just men, not just the Democrats, Republicans, or independents. It's everyone. So I think they're going to have to change their strategy, because they should take a note from what happened yesterday in Ohio, where we had over 3 million people, more than who showed up during our 2014 gubernatorial election. So this is an issue that people are certainly enthusiastic about and certainly are willing to pay attention and show up despite the suppressive manufactured election efforts to try to intentionally silence the voice of the voters.
So you have voters across this country in a number of states moving in one direction, and you got the GOP base moving in another. The Washington Post reporting that the base is beginning to coalesce behind a federal ban. Quote, the Republican Party's quest to restrict abortion rights at the state level continues to run into roadblocks. Meanwhile, the GOP base appears to be warming to an alternative course, restricting abortion at the federal level. A CNN poll conducted after Roe was overturned, Republican voters who approved of the Supreme Court's decision, and overwhelmingly 83% to 16%, that politicians, quote, should leave decisions on abortion restrictions up to the states. The percentage who prefer to instead push for further restrictions on abortion nationwide has doubled to 34%. They now lean in favor of state-level restrictions, 66% to 34%. Do you think your Republican colleagues are feeling pressure? Do you hear that when you talk to them to play to the base on this issue?
I think we witness the power of the people, and that issues matter and that messaging matters. So I think that Republicans do need to reevaluate their strategy. I think you're starting to see some Republicans come around. We had, again, some Republicans, foreign Governor John Kasich and Bob Taft, who supported issue 1. I'm not sure where they stand on the effort that will take place in November. But what I do know is no one wants to be on the extreme side of things. And so in a state like Ohio, after the Dobbs decision was made and Roe versus Wade was overturned, we were the state that had a 10-year-old rape victim who had to flee the state because she could not access an abortion here. We are also the state that has a program of volunteer pilots that were helping women who don't have the resources to be able to fly out of the state to get access to abortion care. So when you think about these things as it relates to state-by-state initiatives and a federal ban on abortion, that is wrong. It is wrong on every level. So we need to make sure we are doing serving the people that elected us to represent them. And that was another thing that was key about issue 1. It wasn't just about abortion, although they said that quiet part out loud, but issue 1 is about protecting the one person, one vote, simple majority. And this will impact issues including raising the minimum wage and ending gerrymandering in a state like Ohio.